I just finished a conversation with another CPA. I'm currently assisting him in trying to figure out how can he transition from industry into public practice. And the one thing that he kept saying over and over is, I don't really have any public practice experience. I've been in industry for the last 10 years. I don't see myself being able to run a public practice firm. But then in the next breath, he would say, but now, when would I do this, and how would I do this, and where would I do this? And it got me thinking, really, the when and the where and the how and that sort of thing, it means nothing if you don't mentally think that you're able to do something. And I can tell you, in my experience, the mental part of it, that's 80% of the battle. Once you can mentally picture yourself doing something, the other 20%, in terms of getting the other 20% done, that's the easy part. That's just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. It's that mental part, and it's that mental barrier that many people come across if they can't picture themselves doing something. And I hesitate to say even more so with CPAs, but even more so when you're looking at a career change. And especially when you talk about the different kind of numbers that you could be looking at in terms of your remuneration, in terms of that career change. If you've worked, if you're like me, and if you've seen my videos, you know I worked in industry before I transitioned into public practice. My numbers were, when I was working in industry, I was in around the $125,000 range. When I got into public practice, you can take that 125, and where I'm sitting right now is you can multiply that by about 12 times, maybe a little bit more. But had you asked me 18 plus years ago whether or not, or how I thought it might work, or where I thought it might work, I wouldn't have been able to answer that question. And the reason why is because you don't roll out of bed one day and go, hey, I think I'm going to start my own firm, and then tomorrow you start it. It doesn't work that way. Basically, you have to overcome that mental barrier. And the mind plays funny tricks on us. Our mind will tell us, nah, that can't be done. There's a certain amount of hours that I have to meet in public practice in order to be able to practice in public practice. There's a certain amount of experience I have to have in public practice in order to work in public practice. All my experience is in industry. I could never make the transition over to public practice. All those excuses, and trust me, there's more excuses. It's raining outside when I thought it would be sunny. Of course, I'm being sarcastic when I say that. My point being is that our mind has a way to play tricks on us. And that's why I say, if we can overcome the mental part of being able to do something, being able to take on a task and complete it, that's 80% of the battle. And as I already said, 20% is just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Prime example, as I said, I came from industry. I'd worked in industry for 15 plus years, wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to make, didn't have the kind of freedom that I wanted, and sure the heck was not in charge of my own destiny. So I made the switch into public practice, which I can tell you, oddly enough, about 8 years before I made that switch, I was reading the CPA magazines and that sort of thing, and public practice was mentioned, and I thought to myself, never in a million years could I see myself working in public practice. For whatever reason, it just didn't seem like that was a path for me. Then fast forward 8 years, and I start looking around and I start thinking, you know what? Why couldn't I work in public practice? CPA, they actually have an entire program designed for people who are currently working in industry and they want to make that transition into public practice, or maybe somebody is working in public practice and they don't have the number of certain types of hours under their belt. Maybe they're short. CPA has a program, I think they call it the bridging program or the mentorship program, whereby if you have your designation and you're working in a different industry, be it government, be it not-for-profit, doesn't matter, be it not public practice, it doesn't mean that you are banned from working in public practice. All it means is that if you enter this program, there's a few either courses or exams or something along those lines that you have to take in order to get yourself up to snuff. And I know when I did that program, it was called the mentorship program, and basically what it involved is I had to send a certain number of my compilation engagements to a mentor who would review them and make sure that I was following all the proper criteria, making sure that the financial statements met. At that point, I was a CGA before all the designations merged. But the idea was to make sure that I was meeting all the regulatory requirements that somebody working in public practice had to meet, as well as all my firms are registered up to review engagements, so I can do compilations, I can do reviews, I do not do audits. So what I had to do is I had to forward a select number of review engagements and other types of special engagements that I wanted to offer services for, which I did. And then that's how I got my license, my full-time license to practice in public practice. So you may think that because you are working in industry that there is no friggin' way you can make that transition, either because of CPA's regulatory restrictions, or whether it's because you've never worked in public practice before. How in the world could you possibly know how it works? All you have is industry experience. And the excuses can keep coming, and they can keep coming, and they can keep coming. My point in shooting this video is 80% of the battle is mental. And if you can get over that mental barrier, and like I say, it's not going to happen overnight. The fact that many of you are thinking it and have been thinking it, keep thinking it, keep researching it, keep looking into it, because what you're going to find, you do have to, when your mind comes up with a reason as to why you wouldn't be able to do it. For example, you have to have X number of direct public practice hours in a certain area before you can own your own firm. Once you go and research that and you find out that, you know what, I really don't. There's another path for me to actually work in public practice. Well, then you can take that excuse off your books, or that obstacle off your books, and then you can tackle the next one. Another one that I hear quite a bit about is I don't have the right type of experience. Now, what I can tell you is if you have a CPA designation, be it in Canada or the United States, you have the right qualifications. You can easily make that transition from whatever position or whatever industry you are currently in. You can easily make that transition into running your own firm. Not a problem. I'm a living example of that. I've done it. The other funny thing, and I mean, I've got challenges with my own obstacles brewing in my mind in terms of what can happen and what can't happen. Prime example is when I first started looking at owning other firms, geographical location was a barrier for me. How could I possibly own a firm that wasn't across the street from the firm that I currently own? That would be impossible. How could that ever happen? Once I brainstormed on how that could happen, talked to some people about it, talked to my different employees about it. I had a bit of a brainstorming session. We worked out the kinks and we worked out the bugs and found out it's not a big deal. All you have to do is be able to accommodate all these little what ifs and what if and what if. And if you can accommodate those, which I can tell you, 9 times out of 10, the barrier, the obstacle is all up here. Once you can get around what is up here, it's free sailing from there. And as I said, 20% is left, and that 20% is just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's the easy part. So don't let your mind prevent you from thinking that you can move forward on getting into public practice. And I don't want to say that in a negative way, because what is good is the fact that you're already thinking about it. And as CPAs, we analyze things. We don't get up one morning and say, hey, let's go do this and make a huge career change without even thinking about it, without doing our investigative work, without looking at all the possible options that are out there, all the things that can go wrong. I mean, really, at the end of the day, what are our jobs? Risk mitigation. We mitigate risk. So the fact that you are even thinking about it right now, that's a check mark in your favor, because you got to keep thinking about it, and you've got to investigate these obstacles that you're coming up with. You got to make sure that you're comfortable with them, and you have to make sure that you can get around them. And really, at the end of the day, that might be where I may be able to play a role. If you have any questions around whether or not there are true obstacles in your way from going from where you're at right now to getting into public practice, going from where your current remuneration is at to doubling, tripling, quadrupling it. I know those numbers sound bizarre, but those numbers are so possible. And again, I'm living proof of it. I've done it myself, and I'm continuing to do it. Once you get over that mental barrier, sky's the limit. You will be blown away at the opportunity that is out there. And you know what? It's funny. My only regret in regards to getting into public practice and doing what I've done of setting up firms all over the place, my only regret is I didn't do it 10 years sooner. But again, that comes down to, nobody likes change, and especially CPAs. I think that we are probably some of the most change adverse individuals on the planet. But the bottom line is, once we figure it out, once we take care of all the what ifs and all the obstacles, and we know that the coast is clear and it's nothing but clear sailing, the good thing about CPAs is we can now move forward in comfort. And really, that's where you need to be, because let's not kid ourselves. You start looking at career changes and that sort of thing, that's a big move. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm here on the other side telling you, make that move. You will never look back. And as I said in one of my other videos, here's the best part of getting into public practice. Let's say you make the move. You've been working in industry, or you've been working as an employee in public practice. You make the move, you get your own firm, and you find out 6 months later, oh my God, I can't stand this. I need to get back to where I was at. No problem. These firms are in such high demand. You can turn around and you can have that firm that you purchased, you can have that firm sold in about 2 weeks' time. Now, you have it sold in 2 weeks, then there's a little bit of time for the new buyer to do his or her due diligence and that sort of thing. The whole thing plays out within about 2 months, maybe 3 months on the high end. But the bottom line is, point I'm trying to make is, once you have crossed out all the barriers that you've thought about, and you've crossed out all the reasons why you should not make the change, and you make the change, and it turns out that it's not really for you, it really isn't something that you want to get into, well, you can get out. You can be out in, you can have a buyer lined up within about 1 to 2 weeks, and you can be completely out in about 2 months. And the best part about the whole thing, you get in, you make damn good money for your first year, and then you decide you want out, you turn around and sell it. 9 times out of 10, you're going to get more for that firm than what you paid for it. So that's number one. Number two, you will have made some really good money in that first year that you were in it. And number 3, you will be able to go back to industry or go back into public practice as an employee, and you will be probably hired within about 1 to 2 weeks of putting out your resumes. So at the end of the day, when I look at all the different opportunity of getting into your own firm and all the opportunity, if it turns out this isn't for you and you want out, to me, it's a win-win-win situation. You really, at the end of the day, I don't think you've got anything to lose. And personally, I think if you're making the transitions for all the right reasons, and to me, the right reasons include what you're going to make, the freedom that you're going to have, and where you're going to be able to practice. I can get into that a little bit deeper on another video, but the bottom line is those are the 3 things that I look at. And if you can meet all 3 of those objectives, I don't think you're going to go back to your old industry or your old position or the type of job that you used to do. But if you need to cross that off your list in terms of being able to get rid of the firm that you purchased and then re-enter where you left, that's not a problem. Not a problem in the least. And the best part about it, like I said, you will walk away after 1 year of running your own firm with more money in your pocket than what you could have ever made in your current position. So this video is getting a bit long. I'm going to start wrapping it up here. So like I said, after talking to a number of people and after I just got off the phone with a CPA, I thought, you know what, I'm going to shoot a video. I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to try to set people's anxieties or obstacles that are brewing in their mind. I'm going to try to set those aside. And I also want you to let you know that what you're thinking is perfectly normal. And it's good that you're thinking those things. And who knows? Some people, they may think about it for a month and then cross everything off their list and say, you know what, I'm good to go. It may take other people 6 months, 12 months, 3 years. Who knows and who cares? The bottom line is, the good news is you're thinking about it. The better news is that as soon as you cross everything off your list, come over to the other side. We're waiting here for you. You're going to love it. Okay? All right, guys. All my information is down below under this video. So if anybody wants to give me a shout or anybody wants to chat about what I just talked about, feel free to hit me up and maybe we can have a chat about where you are at with your career and how you can make that transition that I'm telling you right now is going to change your life forever. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.